Before you listen to this BBC podcast, I want to tell you why I love podcasting. Hi, my name's Tommy Dixon, and I make podcasts for the BBC. I'm a big fan of stories, always loved a good book. But when I started commuting for my first job, I discovered podcasts. I was blown away by how a creative idea and the right mixture of sounds could take you into a whole new world full of incredible stories. You know, the type that make you go, wow. And that kind of inspired me to give it a go myself, which, to cut a long story short, led to a BBC training scheme and a whole new career giving other people that exact same feeling. So if you want to hear amazing stories that make you go, wow, like I did, they're just a tap or a click away on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jane Lewis. Welcome along to this edition of the Scottish Football Podcast, bringing you up to speed on everything you need to know about the national game. It's Tuesday, the 27th of February, and here's what's coming up today.
It's Josh Sims! He's found the bottom corner! And Josh Sims strikes a savage blow to Livingston.
Can Ross County build on their crucial win over Livingston as they face St Mirren tonight? Also, and let's be honest, we don't need any excuse to play this.
McGinn's in behind, McGinn turns it back, Dykes is there, back to McGinn! I cannot believe what I'm seeing here!
With one eye on the Euros, we continue our look at the players in and around the Scotland squad. Today, we get the lowdown on Norwich City's Scottish contingent. And
fair play to the Hibs fans, or this section of Hibs fans for saying, no, we need more detail and we need reassurance on this.
With uncertainty over potential investment in both clubs, what does the future hold for Hibernian and Motherwell?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Well, we've got two Michaels for the price of one today. We've got Michael Grant, the Scottish football correspondent for The Times, and Michael Bailey of The Athletic. We'll get to Michael Bailey later on in this podcast. And, of course, lots to get through with Michael Grant ahead of tonight's football. But first of all, let's quickly run through the latest Scottish football headlines. A Hibs shareholders group plans to vote against the proposed £6 million investment by Bill Foley at the club's AGM this evening. Should Foley's investment be voted through, though, as expected, the shareholding of the Hibernian Supporters Limited would take a significant drop. Motherwell supporters groups have launched a joint opposition to any plans to take their club out of fan ownership. The Scotland women's national team, who've missed out on the last two major tournaments, need to be at Euro 2025. That's according to their winger Lisa Evans, as the team prepare for today's Pinatar Cup final against Finland. St Johnstone have confirmed that their striker Adama Sidibe has been released from hospital after collapsing on the pitch following Saturday's Premiership match against St Mirren. And speaking of the Buddies, they have been boosted by the return of captain Mark O'Hara as they travel to face Ross County this evening. Well, we'll move on to the action on the pitch shortly. But first of all, Michael, what do you make of the situation and the news that Hibernian Supporters Limited plans to vote against Bill Foley's proposed £6 million investment that's in tonight's AGM? Why would they be opposed to this?
Well, I think they're anxious, Jane, that their stake in the club is going to diminish. Obviously, any holding you have is diluted if a major new investor comes in and takes in, what is it, 24% of the stake that Bill Foley is proposing to take over. I find it quite refreshing, quite reassuring, really, that the Hibs fans have taken this stance, because it shows that, they're not just going to roll over and say any investment's great, and think short term and think about the kind of money and signings and short-term improvement that could bring to the club. They're thinking beyond that. And they're saying, well, we have I think it's 15% of the club the Hibs supporters group owns. And I think they feel a little bit disrespected, because I don't think they feel that they haven't had a great deal of communication and detail about what this investment will mean for the club and really how it's come around. So I can understand why they're a little bit, their noses are out of joint a little bit, and I kind of admire them for taking this stand, because the easy thing to do would just be to say, this is $6 million coming into the club, we need it, this is great. But no, I think they're thinking harder than that. Now, I would imagine that the investment will still happen, it'll still come in, but it's maybe just a little warning shot to Bill Foley that Hibs and their fan base deserve to be taken seriously, So, fair play to the Hibs fans, or this section of Hibs fans, for saying, no, we need more detail and we need reassurance on this.
Now, I think we all remember the video that Motherwell produced seeking financial further investment. What's the situation there at Fir Park?
Well, we heard a few days ago, didn't we, that there was potential interest from Middle East, wasn't it, and American investors in Motherwell. There wasn't much detail in what I saw. I mean, no sign of Taylor Swift so far. That was the direction of the begging bowl, wasn't it, when they did that?
Not yet.
I mean, the video went viral, and let's say it got a mixed reaction, but it certainly got attention, and they claim subsequently that there has been some interest generated from it. Now, again, similar dynamic to what we've just talked about at Hibs, that the Well Society, which holds a much bigger percentage of the shareholding, they are suddenly saying, and understandably saying, well, hold on a second, we are custodians of the club, we are reliable, we stand for what the club stands for, we stand for what it is in the community and stuff like that. All of that is potentially jeopardised when you've got a completely external investor coming in to either take a huge chunk of the club or to take over it entirely. I'm not sure exactly, but I would imagine with that shareholding that the Well Society must have control over who buys into the club, unless I'm missing something. But again, it's a similar dynamic. It's the fan base the fans have built up that majority shareholding that they've got, and you don't give that away lightly. Especially Motherwell have been through administration in the past. Other clubs have gone through administration, so they're very wary of potential investors that might come in and cause any jeopardy or even the prospect of a jeopardy to that.
For all the latest on your Scottish Premiership club, including news, views, highlights, analysis and much more, the BBC's coverage is bigger and better than ever. Simply download the BBC Sport app or visit the website and sign up to notifications for your club. It ensures you'll have all the biggest stories and best content right at your fingertips.
All right then, let's move on to the action on the pitch, shall we? Ross County against St Mirren this evening. Another big one for Ross County, following on from what was a massive result for them against Livingston, and that late goal could prove crucial towards the end of the season, couldn't it, Michael?
Yeah, it could, just the way it came about. And County were on this long run of 11 games without a win. I think the general chat, and you pick up on this stuff, Jane, when you're around the media. People were saying, well, County look in a really bad way. I mean, Livingston could catch them. County could be the ones that drop here. Now, listen, it can easily switch again. That was just one game against the bottom team. But after 11 games without a win, you think, okay, there's 2-0 up against Livingston. This is going to happen for them. And then Livy pull them back. And you think, here we go again. So for them to put away their main relegation rivals in that manner is a really powerful thing for the dressing room. It's Don Cowie's first win as the new interim coach after 3 games. That's good as well. And as I say, it ends that run of 11 without a win. They've still got work to do, County, but I think that would give them real optimism. And he played with 3 up front, didn't he? And I think there was a feeling that worked. There's a bit of power there. Eamon Brophy and Simon Murray and Jordan White are all offer things, and Brophy's 2 goals were superb at the weekend.
Yeah, it was their first win since the 5th of December. They remain 11th in the table, but they're now moved on to 22 points. That's now 5 points off a gap between themselves and bottom side Livingston. St Mirren, though, I actually watched them against St Johnstone. They weren't great, but they got the job done. And the bigger picture is they're having a good season. They'll be a tough challenge, even though it's a home game for Ross County. Yeah,
I mean, I think St Mirren will feel that they're almost there, won't they, in terms of securing a top 6 place. If they do go to Dingwall and win, they go above Kilmarnock into 4th place, although Killie would have a game in hand. They would put a bit of distance between themselves and Hibs, or further distance between themselves and Hibs. You're right, they've had a really strong season in the league. They started really strongly, and then they kind of had a bit of a wobble between October and January time. I think it was 3 wins and 13, but they've come again. They've never really gone away, St Mirren, as a team that can cause anybody difficulties. They've got a bad record at Dingwall, but I think they would be playing with so much confidence and belief at the moment that they will feel they can go there and win. And yeah. I mean, I've been really impressed with the way they've just made life difficult for everybody this season, St Mirren. And this could be the second season in a row as a top 6 team.
Yeah, it's really exciting, that race for the top 6, isn't it? Just on this one finally, Michael, how do you see it going in Dingwall this evening?
You know what? I could see County getting a result, actually. I could see County sneaking it, but only, as I say, St Mirren have a poor record up there, and County might just have a bit of tailwind after the weekend win.
Before we bring in Michael Bailey and talk all things Norwich City, some big games in the Scottish Championship this evening as well. Dundee United against Airdrieonians and Wraith Rovers against Morton. That is one to keep an eye on. Morton going great guns. So too Wraith Rovers, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. The Wraith Morton one is the one, isn't it? We all watched Morton in the cup tie, and people have really taken notice of Morton, haven't they, with that run. And Wraith Rovers they hung in there, didn't they? And the late winner against Dundee United was such a moment for them. I still think United are going to have too much over the course of the season. Although having said that, we are getting towards the kind of business end of it. They're only a point clear. Jim Goodwin said the other day about they now need to put a run together, and he's right. But I think they've got enough in that squad to see it through. And I also look at their defensive record. I think they've conceded 14 league goals. Wraith have conceded 33. Now, that tells you that there's a base there at United that will probably see them over the line. But I find Wraith really impressive, and I think it'd be a breath of fresh air if they did get up, either as champions or through the playoffs, because it's been too long since we've had them in the top flight.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
Now, as we look ahead to the Euros, we've been finding out about the form and fitness of the players in the Scotland squad and those hoping to force their way into Steve Clarke's thoughts. And today, we've got 3 for the price of 1, because Michael Bailey of The Athletic is here to tell us about Norwich City's Scottish contingent. They, of course, are Angus Gunn, Grant Hanley and Kenny McLean. Michael, thanks for joining us. So talk to us about Norwich City. Unbeaten in their last 5 games. They're now 7th on the table, only 3 points off playoff places. Right now, they seem to be in a pretty good place.
Yeah, they do seem to be in a good place. Hey, Jane. And it's not been the case all season. I think it's been a tumultuous season at Norwich. The fans haven't been happy for most of it, even when the form has been okay and the results have been okay. There does seem to have been a little bit of a shift in recent weeks. I think the fans are desperate for them to finish in the top 6 and to and probably see a clearer vision of where they're going as a club. And, you know, some of that does involve the longer serving players, especially Grant and Kenny, in terms of the direction of the club and what the future looks like, because those two have been there so long. They probably come with some of the baggage of Premier League relegations and a difficult time outside the Championship. And I think it can then be difficult to focus on actually where you are, especially when you're mid-table in the Championship and struggling a little bit. So the mood is much better now, and that certainly helps the Scottish guys in terms of their preparations ahead of the summer.
Well, let's look at the Scottish guys then. Let's talk about Angus Gunn first of all. He had a little spell out through injury. Of course, he missed a couple of Scotland games, but he's now back in the team and looking back to his best, is he?
Yes, he is. And I think the key thing with Angus is that Norwich really missed him when he wasn't in goal. Angus has done a brilliant job since arriving at Norwich, really, of rebuilding his confidence in his game, because he had a difficult time of it at Southampton and then also on loan at Stoke. He arrived at Norwich with Tim Krul as number 1 goalkeeper, and he was given a real chance to compete for that, and he came out on top of that battle. And I think now you've got a complete confidence in him being Norwich's number 1. He commands his area well. You're talking about one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship. I think clearly he's second for goals prevented in the division, and he looks it as well. It's not just about the numbers. He looks one of the best in his position in the division, and I think he's certainly capable of getting another shot at the Premier League. So I think it's great to see how Angus has developed, and I think actually his arrival in the Scotland scene has helped with that. I think he's someone who needs to feel like he's on top of things and he's of real worth, and I think he had obviously a fantastic introduction to life as a Scotland goalkeeper, and I think he'll be really looking forward to to the summer and what he can do there. He did have a brief time out with injury, which, as I said, Norwich really missed him in that period. But I think that at least means now he's in really good rhythm, that come the summer he'll be ready and fresh enough as well.
Yeah, he certainly claimed that number one jersey for Scotland, that's for sure. Let's talk about Grant Hanley. He, of course, he's been really struggling with injury this season. He's back in the team. I think he claimed his starting berth back at the start of the year in January. But how fit is he? Because obviously he's an important player for Norwich when he is 100% at the back there, isn't he?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because you don't want to sell Grant as a kind of mascot player because of his brilliant character, and he's obviously got a huge quality on the pitch as well, especially at championship level. He ruptured his Achilles in last April, I think it was, certainly just before Easter or at Easter, and that's a career changing injury. You know, you just don't come back as the same player 100% after an injury like that. You have to adapt your game. So for him to be back already is a good achievement, and to be playing a bit. I think he's still working his way in. I think he's only had a couple of games, a couple of full 90s, and he took a good old whack on the shin and actually came off, which wouldn't normally happen in itself the weekend. So I think he's still trying to find his rhythm. He's not quite. I don't think he's quite there yet, but he needs to play to get there, and he'll want to because he'll desperately want to be involved in the summer. So I think he's one who probably takes a bit of patience and a bit of time. And I don't know where he's currently at, he's necessarily going to start with Scotland. A lot will depend on how the coming weeks go. But then that's why I would say you would want him in that Scotland group anyway, heading into the summer, because I think he can deliver a lot. And I think Norwich missed him when he wasn't actually involved in the team in terms of his character and leadership. And also you'd back him to find an extra 5, 10, 15% between now and the summer too. So I think he's getting there, but I think you have to understand what he's been through. You know, he's in his 30s now, just about, isn't he? I think, and you know, he's coming back from such a big injury that there needs to be that patience with him.
Yeah, he's such an experienced player as well. Speaking of experienced, Kenny McLean as well. Seems to me he's a bit of a kind of mainstay for the Norwich team and can play in different positions, which of course is vital, isn't it, for a team who are looking to try and bounce back up to the Premiership in England?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about a question mark over Grant Hanley being available. You could now play Kenny McLean at centre-back because that's where he's been playing for Norwich. Yeah. And I mean, Kenny's a wonderful guy, as you'll all know. Really, really good footballer. And it's been interesting because it's been hard for me to pin down his best position at Norwich. I never really liked him on his own as a holding midfielder, which is more a position he played at Norwich than for Scotland. And I just didn't think it would work at centre-back either. But actually, again, in the surroundings of the Championship, he was able to have that time and control, but also deal with the defensive issues when you're sort of playing that extra line back. So he's had a terrific season. You call him a mainstay of the Norwich team. I mean, he's actually crucial. He's basically been captain in Grant Hanley's absence. He's played pretty much every minute. He makes the team tick. He creates. He's a leader. He throws in the odd mistake, but he's just got a character where he always bounces back from it and shows his best side afterwards. I love him, and Norwich love him, and he probably could have left in either transfer window because Leeds and his former Norwich manager Daniel Farke wanted him, and Norwich have had to actually fight quite hard to keep him about. So I think you're talking about a very, very good Championship player. The big issue for him is probably he is so reliable, and Norwich are reliant on him, that he's played a lot of football, and that has meant that at the end of both of the last 2 seasons he's been injured. So I would be surprised if there wasn't a bit of him that's just hoping he gets through the rest of this campaign injury free and then gets to be properly involved in the summer. And he deserves it, because I think he's a player for the big moments. He can really deliver when his team needs him. And I think he can be a real asset to Scotland, and touch wood, I really hope he makes it, because he deserves to be a big part of it.
Yeah, he certainly delivered for Scotland over the years, that is for sure, in big moments. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the Scotland women's national team are playing in the final of the Pinatar Cup in Spain today. Ahead of that match, here are the thoughts of their manager Pedro Martinez Losa.
Obviously, Finland is going to expose us to other standards, and we want to match that, so we are confident that we can play at that level, and that's going to be a good test for us in terms of not only in possession but out of possession, and level of togetherness on the pitch, level of execution in individual duels, set plays, but also on the ball. We want to have a dominant moments in the game, and probably it's going to be alternating. And that is exciting too.
And you can see Scotland against Finland in the final of the Pinatar Cup today on BBC Alba from 1 o'clock. Well, time to wrap things up now. Thank you very much to the two Michaels, to Michael Grant and Michael Bailey. Phil Goodlad will be here with Kevin Thompson and Lee Miller on the Scottish Football Podcast tomorrow morning. Remember, BBC Scotland will have all your football coverage across online, radio and television, and of course on this podcast as well. For now though, bye-bye.
Just a quick reminder, the Behind the Goals podcast is available every Tuesday with me, Rachel Corsey, and me, Leanne Crichton. It's your one-stop shop for our take on everything that's happening in the world of football. Just head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and search for Behind the Goals.